What up is Marcus Dynasty Full Dads. This is a Dynasty advice and trade episode. And we're just going to go through some things before the trade deadline is here. We're going to be talking about 2023 picks, even picks beyond that. What is your plan? Because realistically, there is going to be 3 or 4 teams that are going to be in high competition mode. Then you're going to have some teams that maybe like 5 through maybe 7 or 8 that are going to be into, I have pieces, but I don't have enough to compete, most likely. And then you're going to have 9 through 12. You're going to have the teams that have only a couple of wins, and maybe even we have a winless team in one of our Dynasty leagues even that is really looking to rebuild for 2023 and 2024. Like they may only have 1 or 2 core pieces. Like we have a team that has Justin Jefferson and Kyle Pitts and nothing else. Like they don't have anything else. And so they're going to have, of course, probably they're going to have the 101 and they're going to have Bijan Robinson. And then all of a sudden they'll have 3 core pieces, and that probably still won't get them done. And so maybe in 2 years they'll be able to have another piece, and then they can actually start trading some future assets away and become a very competitive team. And when you have 101, likely you have 201, and they have a bunch of second rounders and even like a late first. So they may even be able to compete next year. So the biggest thing that I want to tell people is figure out what category you're in. I have a lot of rosters right now where I'm kind of either in that tier 1 or tier 2. Like tier 1, I'm already a competing team. I'm trying to figure out how can I make sure I can manage injuries. Especially if your trade deadline is soon, you have to survive. Really, I mean, what is it, week 11? So you're going to have to survive 6-7 weeks more of potential injuries. And so that's a long time to potentially, and then we have trade deadlines that are later too, but you have a long time to potentially survive these injuries, which is very scary. So we need to figure out what we need to do. So this is where if you need depth, I'm okay with trading picks away in 2023, 2024. Like, this is the time, especially to be a top 3 or 4 team. You're not going to be into this mode a lot. And so if you have survived injuries, whether you have Travis Etienne or Kenneth Walker, or if you have a quarterback that's healthy, an elite quarterback, there's not going to be many times. Like I have a roster that has Tua, but it has a good running back set as well that is healthy. Eckler, I have Travis Etienne, that's why I kind of mentioned him up. I have Swift, I have some wide receivers that are in there. I have Mark Andrews. Like my team is ready. I just need to make sure that I have the depth at each one of those positions to make sure that I have a long run. Because if I have an injury in one of those positions and I don't have a quality backup, that is where rule number 1, that is where your team falls apart. I've seen so many teams that are unwilling to trade their 2023, 2024 picks because they want to keep them. They're like, hey, I want to be a good team, but I don't want to put it all in for 2022 or 22. And then all of a sudden 2023 comes around, and then they're that team that gets all full of injuries and stuff. And they have their first, which is nice, but they didn't win the championship the year prior. And so if you can win the championship now, if you're that 33% chance, that 25% chance, like go after it, get it, increase that chance, and become that team that's a little bit better than the rest. And if you need to make that piece, if you need to go get a Stephon Diggs or Devontae Adams, if you need to trade the bank to go get one of those players to fill into your roster and basically make it from, oh yeah, we have 3-4 teams that are right next to each other, to, hey, I'm going to be the best team, go do that. Like, do that. That is tier 1, and that's the easiest position to be in because really you're in buy mode, and you're just trying to figure out what teams are selling and what team and where you can get the best deals. So a lot of times I will actually email leagues and just be like, hey, looking for the wide receiver, especially before the deadline. Hey, we have 48 hours to the deadline. I'm looking for a wide receiver, especially for depth pieces. I'm looking for a wide receiver and tight end. Can be old, can be I just need some depth for the playoff run. And also, like, if they have a player, a good player, an older player, even like an Adam Thielen or something, and I need that type of player, and I'm willing to just go directly to that owner and be like, hey, you're 2-9. It's like, I understand you're probably not going to make the playoffs. Adam Thielen's not going to help you. What are you willing to give up? Or if this is what I'm willing to offer, are we in the right ballpark? Is a late second going to get it done for Adam Thielen? Like, I need a wide receiver. You don't really need Adam Thielen. A late second's going to do you better anyway. So, like, those are types of things in tier 1. In tier 2, you're really just selling off some of the older assets that you think are going to depreciate quickly. So, if you think that you are not going to make it, especially if you're towards that, like, when I said 5 to 8, if you're close to that 7-8 range, and you have Derrick Henry, and you have CMC, and you have an older wide receiver, again, even like the Adam Thielens or like Keenan Allen's, wide receivers that they seem to be getting closer to that, 24-month period of like, from now to 24 months from now is going to be a complete drastic drop in value. I'm okay with selling those assets and potentially even selling a player and trying to find a younger player. So I'm trying to think of any example of that. So Elijah Moore is a player that has not done much playing time, but if you sold Adam Thielen for Elijah Moore, how many people will go, oh, well, that's fine. But from my perspective, even if you sold a wide receiver that was a veteran for Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall is a super young receiver, has high draft capital, and probably doesn't look the greatest, but again, I would rather have that versus a 30-year-old wide receiver that is not going to really help my team. It's just going to not get me to the point that I need to break through to some of the top tier teams. Then I'm okay with selling that veteran wide receiver and trying to find a young wide receiver. This is what I've even talked to other players about, getting Christian Watson, getting Sky Moore. If there's a player that is not performing right now to the level of expectation, then this is the time to go ahead and go get that type of player. Or running back that hasn't seen the field, Zamir White. Like, this is the time to get Zamir White, because if Josh Jacobs goes down, guess what? Zamir White's value is going to skyrocket. And if Josh Jacobs leaves in the offseason, his value is going to skyrocket. There's a chance Zamir White just doesn't make it out in the NFL. But I am going to at least try to get some of those boom players, because if you hit... I got Austin Eckler when Melvin Gordon was a Charger. And I traded perfect timing for Melvin Gordon. And all of a sudden, Austin Eckler became this amazing type of player. I've also seen somebody that snagged Elijah Mitchell. And that became a star type of player. This year, somebody went out and got Deontay Foreman right before the news came out that CMC was looking to get traded. Well, that Deontay Foreman pick, he just traded it, and all of a sudden he just got a late first for Deontay Foreman for a team desperate in need for running back. That's just an exceptional move by a dynasty owner, knowing that, hey, I'm in this kind of middle tier. It's kind of a tier that you're not in complete sell mode, you're not in complete buy mode, but you're willing to make moves potentially just again for that kind of 12 months, like looking at like, okay, 2023, I want that to be my year. How can I get younger? How can I get maybe worse this year, buying either injured players or Jerry Jeudy potentially even this year? Or how can I find players that potentially you're going to see free agents move on? David Montgomery's a free agent. I mean, Alvin Kamara. There's a bunch of free agents. I'm trying to think what the other ones are off the top of my head. But I think I just said one. Josh Jacobs, they didn't claim his fifth-year option. So there's a lot of running backs. And trying to figure out, okay, well, what if something happens where I can get all of a sudden that third string moves to the second string, or that second string becomes the starter, like Zamir White case, hey, maybe that becomes, or James Cook, buying low on James Cook. Like, again, some of these players, you're just going to have to try to risk it, and their value has dropped significantly over the last 6 months. And then if you're in complete rebuild mode, you're not selling pennies on the dollar, but a lot of times I'm emailing the league, say, hey, this is the player A, Keenan Allen. I'm selling him. Best offer gets him in the next 48 hours. And it's kind of what I do in rebuild mode. The players aren't going to help you. You want a worse draft pick. So that's something that we always forget about, I think, on the back end is we think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have a worse team. It's like, yeah, you want to have a worse team, because if you have a worse team, your chances of going from pick 3 to 2 is better, or from 4 to 2, or 4 to 3. Like, the differences between some of these tiers is significant. And if you look at previous years, it has shown that way too. Especially, it doesn't matter if it's Superflex or 1 QB. The difference is again getting a Justin Fields or getting a Najee Harris in Superflex, which seems like not much of a big difference, but it is. I mean, or in previous years, there was a gap between do you get a DeAndre Swift or do you get a Cam Akers? So that's a big difference. Or are you going to be getting a CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson type, or are you going to be dropping down and getting a Jalen Reagor? I'm trying to think who else was into that mess. Denzel Mims, I believe, was in that draft class and stuff. So like, there's sometimes moving down or like getting a couple picks up. It's significant. It is really significant. And sometimes it's the difference between, especially with like 1 or 2, like look at Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, and then there's no other running backs. And if you are team 3 that is desperate in need for running backs, yeah, you probably picked Drake London or Garrett Wilson. But again, you're not really fixing your solutions. You're not fixing your problems if you're especially struggling at running back, which a lot of teams that are poor do. So again, I figured I wanted to come out to this video and show you kind of a 10-minute, like, this is my strategy over the next couple of weeks before the trade deadline. We have a couple trade deadlines that are coming up in the next 48 hours. So we are kind of getting into panic mode. We are trying to do some selling. And some buying. All right, peace out. Take care. We'll see you again tomorrow.